Hey everybody, welcome to the Bake Show, and my name's Daniel Baker. I'm a pastor here in Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest of Oregon, and welcome to my podcast and our YouTube channel. It's exciting to get to come to you in these crazy times that we're in, but I'm glad to be here and get to do this. This is a channel that talks about family and faith. Being a Christian and what it means to be a Christian for us, and I just think that we have a big responsibility that's been given to us, and I just love talking about it. We're in some crazy times right now. We have to live in a way that is different than we're used to. Our governor just ordered us to stay home and don't go anywhere, so that's why we have this backdrop here. It's my house. One of these days I'll have it all set up to do this podcast and everything. But today I just wanted to talk to you all about is ignorance bliss? You know, it's a tough question to ask. Is it best just to not have any answers or to say, I don't know? I've seen so many people do that where they think that it's better to just say, I didn't know that. And so I want to talk about that today because I think we live in a world right now where there's more people that are going out living in ignorance instead of by the facts. I think they overreact because of that. I think that all this crazy shopping of the pandemic and things like that is an overreaction from the lack of facts, and it's out of ignorance. And when I say ignorance, I'm not calling anybody stupid. There's a lot of things that I'm ignorant in. I don't know everything, and I would never claim to know everything. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a scholar by any means. I'm just a guy who loves Christ. I love the country that we get to live in. I love my home, my family, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about living in a blissful life of ignorance. And is that even possible? So first, I want to tell you what the definition of ignorance actually is. I think that's a great place to start. The word ignorance actually comes from, it means the lack of knowledge, the lack of information. And I think too often we get on social media or we watch on the news and everybody's freaking out because of the lack of information. And we go and we share things on social media or we see something on the news, and it's just crazy. So what's crazy is we live by the lack of information, especially in a social media virtual world that we live in, and I think it's very dangerous. It's hard for us to filter through to figure out what the facts actually are. So a lot of times we are left in ignorance. And it's extremely unhealthy, I think. I don't think it's blissful. I love what Peter says, 1 Peter 2:15. He says, "For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people." But what does that mean for us? What does that mean as a Christian? Who am I to be? What if I'm living in ignorance as well? What if I was out there doing all the shopping? I didn't know any different. I was emptying the shelves and hurting anyone. I was not aware of all the facts. So I'm a Christian. I don't have all the facts. What should I do? Well, I think the first place to start is taking a step back, living in patience, and trying to dig out the facts through all of the sea of social media, all the news that we're being fed, and maybe start looking up facts and then respond to those facts instead of ignorance. I think it's extremely dangerous for any of us to live any other way, especially as Christians. And I think as Christians, if we can take a step back and encourage everyone to say, hey, let's look at this as a whole. Who can we be as a light for Christ? Let's do this without overreacting. And I think by doing that, the people that are acting foolishly will see that and go, hey, maybe I should take a step back too. Maybe I should take a step back and see what's going on. On the other hand, with the question being, is ignorance bliss? I think maybe it could be a little bit, which is kind of crazy, because if you think about the people that went and cleared the shelves, they're at home now with 80 million rolls of toilet paper, 60 pounds of rice, 800 packages of top ramen, watching television knowing that they're going to be fine. So yes, I think that there is some point of blissfulness through all of the ignorance, but unfortunately the rest of us have to live our lives through their blissfulness while struggling to get a roll of toilet paper. So yes, there is a sense of blissfulness, but in the long run, it's really not all that great. You can have everything that the world has to offer, and still it's not going to turn out for you very good when it comes to eternity. And I think we need to talk about that a little bit right now. I think we need to talk about who we should be as Christians. I think we should talk about who people are that are not Christians, so that we can have a better understanding of what's going on. I love what Paul says in Romans. When he's talking about creation, we're to know God just by what it is he's created. And what's crazy is there are people out there right now who are worshiping the creation instead of the Creator. The guy that's created everything, instead of the creation, worship the Creator. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Romans 1:20, Paul writes this, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what he has made, so that people are without," I love this part, "excuse." We're not allowed to live with excuses. It doesn't matter who you think you are, how you think you are. We're not to live with excuse. We're to live knowing God, even if all we knew was what he created. It doesn't matter what your excuses are. It doesn't matter if you didn't know all the answers. Imagine if you got into it with your spouse. Because you didn't know, is your spouse going to be less mad at you? Probably not. They're still going to be mad. If you did something you weren't supposed to do and you go, "Well, I didn't realize I was not supposed to do that," you're still going to be in trouble. I love watching cops and live PD, and the guys are getting arrested, or the ladies that are getting arrested on there. It's really quite funny because they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was in my pocket. Oh, I didn't know I was speeding. Oh, I didn't know I was doing that." Guess what? They still go to jail. Even though they were ignorant, they still went to jail. So I want to encourage you to be careful living in ignorance, because in the end, it's not all that blissful, I promise. And in the end, God's not going to care what you didn't know. He's going to care on whether or not you did know. He wants to know that you know him, and that you love him, and that you worshiped him and not this world. It's really important for us to understand this. Jesus came and he gave us a gospel full of grace. And he even said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing," because right now they're living in ignorance. I lived in ignorance for 35 years, not knowing Jesus. I claim to say, "Yeah, I know there's a God. Yeah, I've heard of that Jesus guy. Oh, wait, I believe in him, so I'm going to be saved, right? Even though I'm not living for him, I'm saved, right?" Yeah, that's not how it works. There is those scriptures that say, "Away from me, I do not know you." That's scary for me to know. But I know now, when I hit 35 and I gave my life over to Christ and I was baptized, oh man, what a grace-filled day that was for me. And then I knew that I wanted to share God's grace with every single person in this world. Just because you're ignorant doesn't mean you're going to get away with it, especially when it comes to God. One of my biggest fears as a Christian and as a pastor is those that don't know Christ. Revelation 20:15 says this. This is one of the most scary scriptures for all the people that I love. It says this: "Anyone whose name was not found in the written book of life was thrown into the lake of fire." And I'm not telling people that to scare you or to frighten you that you're going to hell. I'm not casting judgment. I'm no better than anyone. Romans 3:23 says we all fall short of the glory of God. But what I'm trying to get at is, hey, when we get out there and we act a fool, just being ignorant, you're still acting a fool. Okay? When the end of time comes, just because you think, oh, I can go and act a fool and I'll just tell God, oh, I didn't know. He's going to go, but you did. But you did. You remember when your friend was trying to tell you about Jesus? Do you remember when your brother or your sister was trying to tell you about Jesus, or your grandmother was praying for you all that time? Your mom, countless hours of praying, and you go, hey man, YOLO, you only live once. Who cares? I don't care. I guarantee you, you're gonna care. And you know what? Right now, I care. I care about every single person that walks this earth. God has given me a grace that is so amazing. And you guys, there's folks of you that are out there right now that have no hope. But I have hope. And I want to share that hope with you. There's a hope to be had. And it's in Christ Jesus. Living in ignorance is not bliss. It may be just for a moment. It might be for a moment. But it isn't going to last. Nothing on this world is lasting. Only God's grace and God's salvation that He offered us through Christ is what is lasting. So I want to encourage you today to research it. Research Jesus. Open a Bible and look in the New Testament to see who Jesus is. Go back in the history books and look to see who Jesus is. We're not here to blow smoke up anybody. That would be ignorant to do. I'm not trying to act foolish. I'm trying to act responsible. I'm trying to act in love. Scripture says, love your neighbor. What does our neighbor need more than anything else in the world? They need Jesus. And I'm coming on here today just to love my neighbor and hopefully just share Jesus with you a little bit today. Hey, so that's the end of today's message. I'm grateful for you guys to log in. My name's Daniel Baker. This is The Bake Show. If you liked it, please click down below where the like button is. Also, look over there where it says subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. I'd love to see you guys again. Thank you for tuning in to The Bake Show. God bless you all. I'm praying for all of you. We're praying for our country and we're praying for this world. It's crazy times, but there's no better time than to share the gospel than there is to right now. God bless you all. Take care.